All right, perfect. Okay, so what we're gonna do before any, let me go ahead and get my screen share up here. Okay, and I'm going to, whenever I do this Zoom screen sharing, so I teach online a lot, and whenever I do this part, I always feel like the teachers when we were younger, like trying to run the VCRs in the classroom that like, and they like couldn't figure it out. And I'm always trying to get this right. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a mindful moment. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you to those of you who are here on Zoom later showing up. I'm really excited to be meditating with y'all. I'm excited to share this, these practices with you and engage in this challenge. And so we're going to start with what I call a mindful moment. So before we do introductions or I share any of my background or anything like that, we're going to do a mindful moment. And this is a practice that you can take with you immediately. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you'll hear me say this many times. You can always cap your eyes, which means to just look at whatever is in front of you, the floor, the table, and you're just lowering the amount of visual stimulus coming in to your awareness without closing your eyes. Um, and so we're going to start by just becoming aware of what you're aware of. So that might mean sounds. You might notice temperature in your room. You might be thinking. And so we're without any judgment, just notice that and bring your attention into your body. So, for example, notice where you're seated. Notice if you can feel the support of the chair or the floor beneath you. We're going to take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose and let it out slowly and fully through your nose or mouth, whatever feels most comfortable. And now a second long, slow, deep breath in and out. And when you finish that, let your breath return to its natural rhythm and depth. And bring your full attention to the sensation of the inhale and exhale. This is called a mindful breath, breathing with attention. And so we'll continue to notice that for a few moments. And as we conclude our mindful moment, I invite you to set a personal intention for our time together today. And now you can slowly open your eyes. And that is a mindful moment. And so, mindful moment you can really have anytime. Transitions are a great opportunity for that. I used to do this in the morning when I would arrive at school. I would sit in my car for just 1 to 3 minutes before going into school and just take a couple of deep breaths and ground myself and say, okay, I'm present. Whatever I was thinking about getting ready this morning and all that stuff, now I'm here in this experience. And so mindful moments can be really useful in all types of transitions and things like that. So I am going to any questions or responses to the mindful moment before we go on. Robert, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so I'm going to give an intro. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and where I'm coming from, and then like I mentioned before, we have 8 teachers plus me in this cohort doing this together. And So for those of you who are on the call right now, I'd love to start getting to know a little bit more about you. Why did you decide to join this challenge? What is your background knowledge with meditation, things like that. So I'm going to stop sharing screen though so that we can see each other and just I'll tell you a little bit about my background and why I'm doing this. And then we can take a couple moments and and I'd love to hear about y'all as well. So my background is as a classroom teacher. I've been in and out of the classroom for about 20 years, and I've taught in various places in the US. I've also taught overseas at an international school in South Korea. And um, so during my stint, so in the US, I've taught in Atlanta, Georgia, Portland, Oregon, Sedona, Arizona. And actually, I started my teaching career as a one-on-one paraprofessional in the Chicago area. And the person who is responsible for that is on this call, Emily. She was my inspiration into education. And so while I was living in, let's see, I'm gonna do that. Okay. While I was living in South Korea, I discovered meditation, and it was my way of dealing with the culture shock of being in a new country. It was my way to kind of stabilize and adjust. And when I was teaching, during that stint of teaching, I also experienced severe burnout. And so I started to um, get deeper into a meditation practice, into a mindfulness practice, gratitude journaling, all that type of stuff. And that led me on this journey. I left the classroom there in 2016 and I went and started traveling. And during that time, I did a training, a meditation teacher training. So I became a certified meditation teacher. It was a year-long training. And then I did a mindfulness in the workplace training, a yoga teacher training, and then a children's yoga training. So I did all of those things and while I was traveling for a couple of years. And then I ended up in Portland, Oregon, where I lucked into a classroom that was using the framework of responsive classroom as kind of their behavior system and just the way they structured their day. But it was all through the lens of mindfulness. And so I came into this classroom and I took over a maternity leave. And when I took over the maternity leave, I was like, this is using all of the things that I just spent these last couple years training and learning is being used in this classroom. Well, I got to stay for another year in that classroom because the teacher didn't come back from her maternity or didn't come right. She didn't return from her maternity leave. So I stayed and I got to implement the system into the classroom from start to finish. And I got that hands-on experience. And that brought me to the end of the 2019-2020 school year. So as we all know, that was when the pandemic started. I was teaching online. I had already decided to leave the classroom before all that started. But so right in the midst of all that, I left the classroom and I started my business Inhale, Exhale, Connect, where I teach children and adults mindfulness and meditation. And I do teacher trainings where I train teachers to adopt a mindfulness practice and also how to weave mindfulness seamlessly into daily routines in the classroom. And so that brings us to um, here, this meditation challenge. And so I would love to hear a little bit about y'all as well, if you're comfortable sharing and just, your name, maybe why did you join this challenge? What are you hoping to gain and things like that. So why don't we start with Annie?
Okay, and I see Robert there. Robert and I are colleagues. Thank you, Katie. I heard about this through a good friend of mine, also named Annie Nog. She's a professional coach and parent in the parent community I'm in. I've been teaching for the last couple of years. This is a new career for me. So I have a background in human resources and nonprofit management. And I was first exposed to HR or sorry, meditation in the workplace. So I brought in a teacher to the advertising agency I worked at because it was a very stressful environment. So it was, I think, Vedic meditation. So we did that for a bit, and I really think it's just going to be a tool for me as a newer teacher. I'm pretty hard on myself. I have anxiety, and we know those two things are not always good to start your day with. So I think meditation will, I'm hoping is a way to just kind of clear that out, that negative self-talk, or bringing in my a calm centered self to my students because I think that's, the gift I can offer them and also the way for me to stay, above the stress or near it, but not letting it, affect me physically. So yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Robert, since y'all are colleagues, why don't you go
Yeah.
next? Oh, here, hold on. You're muted. Let's see.
Thanks, Annie, for introducing me to this inhale, exhale, etc. thing. I decided to pay the fee because of the title really turned me from chaos to calm. And what I was feeling was a lot of chaos in the classroom. And I have a very unique situation. I'm a classroom teacher with 12 autistic children
Mm,
who are uh, some of them very chaotic. And so I was bringing that chaos home, and it was affecting my family life. And my wife called me out on it. And just a few days before this um, break, the winter break, I decided that I do some meditation, and I had guidance that I'm not the chaos. So I took that mantra into the classroom. I'm not the chaos. And it has helped me tremendously, along with my practice, to not be the chaos,
mm,
along with earplugs. So the form comes into the spiritual as well. So I am extremely grateful to be here. Thank you, Katie, for your knowledge and expertise, and also to be able to wrap that into my classroom. Because right now we do 3 deep breaths, and but I would like to learn more about bringing this practice into the classroom seamlessly. So thank you.
Thank you for
That's
sharing.
sure.
All right, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a longtime friend of Katie's. We went to college together and we were roommates and good friends. And Katie started her teaching career, like she said, when she was in Chicago. I've been in education for this is my 26th year. Um, and I was a classroom teacher for 18 years straight. And then I took my pause and I took, I became the educational technology coach at my school. It was right before the pandemic hit. So I was also the remote learning coordinator and all that fun. And about a couple years ago, I started talking to my superintendent saying, I want to head back to the classroom. So I am back in the classroom teaching first grade this year. Loving it back being back. Um, I decided to join because I've never done meditation before. But I feel like, you know, I feel like it would be great to learn these techniques to help for mindfulness breathing, to help with anxiety, um, and stress. And I'm looking forward to to learning from you, Katie. So,
Thanks for sharing.
mhm.
Well, I'm really glad that all of you are here and everyone who is going to be watching later on Zoom. So I hope that we meet all of your goals, and I'm here to, interact and engage throughout this, even though we only have a couple of live calls scheduled. I'm here to engage during this and share my knowledge and anything that I can do to support. So what we're going to do, I'm going to just give you a brief introduction to um, the challenge, to the inspiration for the challenge, and a little bit about meditation and the nervous system and stuff like that. And then we'll do a meditation together at the end of the call. So let me go back to sharing my screen here. So the first thing that I'll share is the background for why I chose 12 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks, why I set the challenge up this way. So basically, the inspiration behind the framework is Dr. Amishi Jha. She is a professor of psychology at the University of Miami, and she's done a lot of research um, on meditation and mindfulness and attention and stuff like that. And so she has this book called Peak Mind, and what she discovered in her through her research, years of research, she and her team came to what they call the minimum effective dose of mindfulness meditation to feel the benefits. And what they discovered is that that is 12 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks in a row. And that is the minimum amount of meditation to start to really feel the impact and the benefits, the rewiring of the habits in the brain, the things that change in the brain. And so I've heard her explain it this way: 12 minutes is what she calls the minimum effective dose, meaning get to 12, and then if you do more, the more you benefit. So, and I'll speak a little bit more to that in a few minutes, but that's the background. And now I just want to walk you through. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and we're going to go to the challenge page real quick so I can share a little bit about that. One thing that I will share is that the platform that we're using, I'm somewhat new to this platform as well. And so I'm discovering it along with you. I have used it, I've participated in challenges on the platform, but we are discovering it together. So if anything comes up, let me know. They have a great support system. If things come up where something's confusing or you need support, I can help you with that. But let me go ahead and share my full screen here. Okay, so this is the challenge page. So you'll see this page when you go, and what the first one of the things, so this is always available. This is if you go in here, there's a little welcome video. You might not need to watch that at this point because a lot of what's on here is what we're talking about today. But that's there if you would like to check it out. Okay, so when you go into a checkpoint, you will see, um, okay, so there's a meditation that's going to be posted every week, and this is where this button will take you to it. It's posted on YouTube because I want people to have access to it after the challenge is over if you want it. So this will take you to the YouTube video. The goal is to do a meditation 5 days a week. You do not have to do this meditation. It's an offering if you would like to do this meditation. It is 12 minutes, and so if it falls into the that category of what I spoke to with the research from Amici Jha. And the idea behind the doing the meditation, the same one 5 times in a row, is to create familiarity for the nervous system. But I also am going to upload a new one every week because I would like for you to have experience with different types of meditation. So this one is a breath awareness plus gentle counting. Next week will be a body scan, and we'll have different ones difference each week. Um, this is encouraged but not required, of course, which is the community engagement. And so you will, um, let's see. So let me go out of this. You will see right here the feed. Okay, so this is where you can make posts about your progress or how they're going, and you can comment on different people's things, different people's posts. At the end of the week, um, after you finish your 5 times, there's a checkpoint reflect, and that's on a Google form. That's just intended. So that's just a way for you to take stock of like how things are going for you. And then there's also a meditation tip that you can watch here, and that'll just be a short video also on YouTube that is just a tip for meditation. And then for people who want to dive a little more deep, there is a meditation journal that you can download if you would like, and each week I'll give a new prompt, or you can simply just look at this prompt and do it in your own journal if you would like. And then where it says make a submission, at the end of, let's see what it's going to tell us. Okay, here. Once you've completed this checkpoint reflection, at the end of the week, you can take a quick screenshot of it and upload it, and then that will mark your checkpoint as complete. Now, I'll actually be able to see that via Google Forms, so it doesn't need to be a complete screenshot of anything. We'll communicate, the full communication will happen via the Google form, and you'll get an email of your response so that you can kind of keep track of your progress and how you're doing. But this is also, it is not a barrier to the next checkpoint. So if you don't want to do the reflection, you don't want to submit it, the next checkpoint will still open up on next Sunday morning, and there'll be a new meditation and all of those things, and you can go and do that without actually having submitted anything. But for those people who like to have that kind of official checkpoint completed checkbox, then that submission form is there. So that's a little tour into the platform, and like I said, we'll explore it together as things unfold. Okay, so back to a little bit more about meditation. So what I would like to do is start by sharing just, what is meditation? So the term meditation is what I'm talking about when I talk about meditation is referring to a couple different things. One being the contemplative practices that are meant to settle the nervous system, increase self-awareness, and train the brain for focus and attention and things like that. It's also a state of awareness that is its own unique state of awareness. It's a little bit different than fully being awake. It's a little bit different than dreaming, relaxing, sleeping. Those are all different states of awareness, and meditation is its own state of awareness. I'm going to show you a quick video. It's let's see, hold on one moment. Okay, so let me pause that. It's called Why Mindfulness is a Superpower, and it is narrated by a man named Dan Harris. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dan Harris, but he was, I believe, yeah, okay, so I see some thumbs up. So he was a journalist, I think maybe like a news anchor or something like that. And he had a lot of experience, I think, in war zones. And so he had a nervous breakdown on air, and from that discovered a meditation practice and a mindfulness practice, and he's written some books. And so he narrates this video, and it's called The Superpower. And so we're going to watch that. Um,
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
All right, so there is just a little inspiration about meditation. And what I would like to do also is, let me refine my screen share. I want to address, so you're hearing the words meditation and mindfulness used interchangeably a lot. And so I want to just speak to that briefly. So, we defined meditation. So mindfulness defined. So this is the way I think about it. The way I think about mindfulness, I think of it as an umbrella term, and that meditation falls under that umbrella term. Now, meditation is rooted in ancient practices, and mindfulness, I believe, is a little bit more of a new terminology. It might be used in some of the Buddhist teachings, but in the way that we use mindfulness, the terminology now is newer, I think, than the term meditation. But I still think of meditation as falling under the umbrella of mindfulness, and I think about mindfulness as like dipping into a meditation practice and like taking a piece of it out and using it in a like a little micro practice. So some breathing techniques. Mindfulness also has to do with like mindset, and I define it this way: paying attention on purpose to what you're doing. So it's really about increasing self-awareness and noticing all of the things going on inside and outside of you. And so John Kabat-Zinn is a man who developed something called MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he is considered the father of modern day mindfulness, again, because mindfulness is actually rooted in ancient philosophies like Buddhism, but he developed this newer MBSR program, and he defines mindfulness as the awareness that arises through paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the moment, and without judgment. So there's a little bit of background of, this term mindfulness, and how it differs a little bit from meditation. Any questions or comments before we keep going? Okay. All right. So I want to share a little bit about some misconceptions about meditation. So, as meditation has become more and more common, some of these myths around meditation have been dispelled, but the ones that I hear the most frequently are these first three on this list. And so I'm just going to briefly address those. So the first one, I have to stop thinking to clear my mind. So I can't stop thinking is that exactly right. You can't because first of all, it's nearly impossible to stop thinking about thinking when you're thinking about it. But it's also the nature of the mind to think, just like it's the nature of the eyes to see. And so, through a meditation practice over time, you will find that you can more easily access more subtle levels of thinking, and eventually the practice can take you beyond your thoughts to more silence, and you can access those for a few moments at a time. But thoughts are always going to be a part of meditation. It's they're just natural. And so we're not trying to clear our mind. What we're doing is we're developing a relationship with those thoughts and we're working on focusing our mind. Um, this idea that you have to do it correctly, there's actually no right or wrong way to meditate. There are recommendations on ways to meditate. There are, as in education, we talk about best practices. There are things that research shows are best practices, which is what this whole challenge is based on, the Amishi Jha's research. But really, what you need for a meditation practice is a willingness and a commitment to continuing to bring your focus to something again and again and again, even when you feel like giving up. And so, if you have those things, then you are doing it correctly. And this idea of I'm so busy, I don't have time for it. This is probably maybe this might be the most common thing I hear over the not being able to do it, clear your mind. And so if this is you, if you feel like you don't have time for it, I want you to ask yourself a couple things. First of all, how long are you willing to wait in line for a coffee or a latte at the coffee shop? How long are you willing to sit on your phone and look at social media or be on the internet? If you take little chunks of time from those things, most of us can find a few minutes to spare each day. And in this challenge, we're working on 12. But if 12 feels like too much, back it up and start with 5. 5 minutes of meditation a day is better than 0 minutes of meditation a day. And then you can gradually work yourself up um, to more to 12 minutes if that's your goal. And hopefully what I think you will find is that meditation helps your focus and your clarity so much that it ends up giving you time back in your day. And so there's a Zen proverb that I always like to quote, and it is that you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit for an hour. And I always find that to be funny and also true. Okay, so little bit about stress. So we're going to go through this part kind of quickly because I do want to make sure to honor your time and make sure that the last, 12 minutes is dedicated to meditation. Um we so stress is why many people come to meditation. It drives people to meditation. It's not the only reason, but it's a big reason. And so when we're talking about stress, we're talking about several different things. And, we've got the things that cause the stress. This term eustress, this is a term that is used to mean it. A lot of times you'll hear it as like the good stress. And it is the stress that you might have like created by a deadline or that a performer might feel before they go on stage. It's the type of stress that gives you motivation. And we don't often give attention to this, like put good and stress in the same sentence, but there is low level moderate stress that can be beneficial. Unless it's chronic, then it can turn into what we call distress. So distress is when we have a stress response that goes without any relief, and we've got too much flooding of the hormones into the system and there's no balance or relief. Then that turns into distress. So eustress can become that if it's not balanced. And then a stress accumulation is when stress goes unaddressed. And so what we're working on during this challenge is addressing stress through meditation. So our nervous system. So I don't know everyone's background or how much you already know about the nervous system, but I'm just going to give a quick, simple overview, just enough to understand why mindfulness and meditation are so impactful. So, um, I have a teaching background. I'm not a doctor, so this is not through a medical lens, but this is a mindfulness lens. But it is grounded in how the body works. So, the part of the nervous system that we focus on in mindfulness and meditation is the autonomic nervous system, also known as the involuntary nervous system. And that is the part of the nervous system that regulates how your body responds to stress without you having to even think about it. And so within that, we've got two branches. And these two branches are designed to keep us alive. We've got the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is what is often referred to as fight, flight, or freeze response, if you've heard that word. Um, that I think of as like the gas pedal, and then the parasympathetic is the opposite. It's the brakes. That is the what is often referred to as the rest and digest response. So neither is good or bad. The goal is to have flexibility and be able to move between the two and not have one that is taking over all of the that is in control all of the time. So when we have a stress response, when we are in the fight, flight, or freeze, um, when we have that type of response, that starts in the brain and immediately releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol into the system. It sets off a cascade of physical changes that I think are actually, sorry, hold on one second. I think are actually fascinating. So if you think about being in a car and a car suddenly pulls out in front of you and you feel that jolt in your nervous system, that flooding of of hormones, that's the that can help you kind of imagine, get into the place of what it feels like. And really, it's really brilliant the way that our nervous system functions, but also the important thing to remember is that that we might not really be aware of is that all of these same stress responses can be triggered not only by real emergencies, but by something we call perceived threats. Okay, so a perceived threat is when your mind thinks there's danger, even if nothing's happening to you in this moment. Now, a perceived threat can be something you watch, something you read, something you hear. It can be a memory from the past, a worry about the future. So it doesn't mean imaginary or made up. It simply means the threat's not happening right now, but your nervous system is responding and reacting like it is. So your body responds to perceived threats the same way it does to an actual emergency. And so all of these cool things that are meant to happen to help you under duress and under really stressful situations, they happen even when those are not actually needed. And so that is why we want to activate the rest and digest response. Okay, so the parasympathetic nervous system, when it's activated, it helps pause the stress response and it brings the body back towards balance. And that is what meditation, mindfulness, breathing practices are doing, is helping us get into the rest, digest, recover. And like I say here, the nervous system, when you have nervous system regulation, then you have choice. And so the goal isn't to eliminate stress or stay calm all the time. That's not possible. We're not going to eliminate stress from our day. The goal is to build flexibility in your nervous system so that you can move out of it. Okay, so meditation is the effects of meditation are cumulative. So every time you meditate, you're building up more the benefits of meditation. And so, like I said here, preventing stress is optimal, but dealing with it is essential. And that's what we're going to do. So at this point, we're going to start preparing for our meditation. So I want to share with you what I call the 5 essentials of meditation. We're not going to have a chance on this call to go really deep into these, but I'll bring these up throughout the challenge again and probably like post them somewhere in the challenge so that you can have them as a reminder. But just a brief, since we're going to meditate together in just a couple minutes, some of these things might come up during meditation. So the first one we talked about already a little bit, but you're not going to stop your thinking, but we're even going to take it further and say thoughts are actually okay during meditation and expected. So the mind thinks that's its job. And then when you close your eyes, it often becomes even more noticeable. You're noticing your thoughts, you're noticing, and it's not because something's wrong, but just because you're finally paying attention to it and you don't have all those outside things stimulating you. And so the practice really is pretty simple that when you notice that that you're having thoughts and you're distracted from the meditation, you just gently return your attention to the focus of your practice, and you do that again and again and again without judgment. And actually, to speak to that, I'm going to jump ahead real quick right here, and then we'll go back in a moment. So this is something that Amishi Jha calls the push up for the mind. Okay, so when you're meditating, we find an anchor. Today it's going to be our breath. You find an anchor, then you notice, where's your attention? Has it wandered? If it has, you refocus. So focus, notice, refocus, repeat. And just like building our muscles in the gym, that builds your meditation muscles. And we call that the push up for the mind. And so back to the 5 essentials. We're going to use a gentle effort, not trying too hard to make anything in particular happen. It's more about being than doing. And so we don't have to put in this big effort. We're just going to sit and be and use a gentle effort, a gentle awareness, and allow things to arise naturally. Number 3, keeping a beginner's mind. So every time you go into meditation, you're different because your day is different. Your nervous system is different that day. Your stress level is different that day. Your life is different that day. And so, releasing expectations for a certain thing to happen or for it to be a certain way is what this one is about. And then Annie, you spoke to this self-compassion and self-talk. So one of the things that we get to practice during meditation is being kind to ourselves. And we get to hear how we speak to ourselves when we get frustrated. So how you practice your meditation is generally an insight into how you live your life. And so if you lose focus during the meditation and you find that you feel frustrated and you're speaking harshly to yourself, notice that and see if you can change that to the way that you might speak to one of your students that's having a hard time, in a kind and gentle way. And last but not least, meditation is training of the brain, training of the focus. Just like any habit that you're trying to adopt, you do have to stick with it. So stick with it. It's helpful to decide before the meditation starts how long you want to meditate for and set yourself a little timer. Um, and if you find that you get bored or uncomfortable or anything like that, the the in order to turn a state of meditation into a state into a trait, you do have to have consistency. And so continuing to show up and do that day after day is how you build that practice. I will say I put this little note here. The exception is if you're dealing with trauma, then and you feel I don't have a deep trauma training, but what I do know is that if you are in meditation and you start to be flooded with memories and things like that, then it is okay to exit the meditation. But if that's not the case and that's not what you're experiencing, and let's say you get like really distracted and you get an important phone call and you have to take it, then I always suggest, like, after that, go back and finish the meditation, even though you had an interruption. So stick with it. And let's see. Okay, so really briefly, how to sit in a meditation. People often are curious about this. There's really no way, we see pictures of people like sitting cross-legged with their hands like this. I typically sit with my hands in my lap, just kind of resting together like this. You can sit on a chair, on a bed, on the floor. Um, it isn't recommended to lie down because our brains are trained that lying down equals sleeping. And so it's common for people to fall asleep in a meditation anyway, especially when you're new to it. So that's part of it. But when you lie down, it's even more common to fall asleep. But we have trained our brains that um that closing our eyes equals sleep. So when you first start meditating, when you close your eyes, sometimes it is common to fall asleep. Um, and so sitting straight with your spine as straight as possible, that is helpful to keep you alert as well. And then I also like to say, comfort is key. So if you make adjustments during meditation, like your foot starts to fall asleep or, something's uncomfortable, that's regulation. So that's not the same as distraction. That's that's okay. Um, okay. So any questions about any of this before we start and do a meditation together? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a breath awareness and gentle counting. And so this is not a breathing exercise, so you don't have to breathe deeply or rhythmically. You can breathe naturally. It's an awareness exercise. And I'm going to lead you through the meditation, but it is the same meditation that is recorded for this week. So you'll hear the same thing. And during the meditation, if you would like to turn your screen off, you can, or you can leave it on, either way, whatever you're comfortable with. And I really like this idea here that is on the screen, that when you bring your attention to your breath, you're in the present moment because you cannot breathe in the past or in the future. And so breath awareness practices are really good practices for presence. Okay, so um, I'm going to pull up the meditation, and while you start to get settled, and just a reminder that the idea here is we're going to focus on the breath. I'll walk you through that during the meditation. If your mind wanders, you're going to notice that it wandered, and with gentle awareness and kindness to yourself, just bring it back to your focus. All right. So let's see. Let me stop sharing here for a moment. Okay. So we're going to practice a breath awareness with gentle counting. And like I said, this is an awareness practice, not a breathing exercise. And so I will keep track of the time. It will be 12 minutes. And I'm going to invite you to start by just allowing your spine to be upright but relaxed, and get your body comfortable. Let your hands rest comfortably. And I'll invite you to close your eyes, but you can also cap them. As I mentioned earlier in the call, capping means to gaze gently at the floor or whatever's in front of you, perhaps a table or a desk. And take a moment to notice where you are. So bringing some presence into the moment, feeling your feet on the floor, the support beneath you, noticing where your hands are placed. I'm going to ring a bell to indicate to the beginning and end of the meditation. Before I do that, I'm just going to share with you that during the meditation, if you notice moments when your eyes want to open or your body wants to move and adjust, that's very normal. That's just regulation. And so if that happens, I invite you to do that and try moving slowly and gently and mindfully, and then just settle again when it feels right. Okay, so with your eyes closed, you may notice that you become more aware of the sounds around you. So I invite you to welcome any sounds with open acceptance. Noise never needs to be a barrier to meditation. You may also become more aware of sensations in your body. So allow any sensations to come and go through your awareness with ease and acceptance. And if something feels uncomfortable, you're welcome to adjust your position. And so let's begin with 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in through your nose, allowing your belly to expand, your shoulders to gently lift, and your chest to open. And as you exhale fully and deeply, reverse that motion, softening the shoulders and relaxing the chest and gently pressing the air out of the belly. And so we'll do that 2 more times on your own. And then when you finish, allow your breath to return to its natural rhythm and depth. And so now, as you sit breathing naturally, begin to draw your attention to the natural movement and sensations of the breath. So there's no right or wrong way to be breathing. The key is simply to notice how it feels right now. Notice it moving in and out of your body. Notice what that feels like. You might notice how it feels at your nostrils. You might notice your chest or your belly moving. Whatever place feels most comfortable and neutral for you, let your awareness rest there. Remembering there's no need to control your breath, simply feel its natural sensations. Whenever you notice your attention has drifted away from your breath, gently refocus, remembering distractions are natural. We're going to begin counting the breath now. So counting gives the mind a gentle place to rest its focus. And so I'll guide you through the first few counts. And if you decide that you'd rather simply notice the breath without numbers, either way, you're still practicing awareness. So on your next inhale, slightly silently to yourself, say the number 1. And on the exhale, 2. And inhale, 3. Exhale, 4. Inhale, 5. Exhale, 6. We'll continue counting in this way, but at your own pace. And if you prefer a different counting rhythm, you're welcome to adjust it. What matters most is that the counting supports your awareness. And while you're doing this, if you lose count or if you get to 10, start back over at 1. This isn't a competition for the highest number, but instead it's a resting place for your focus. So I'll give you some time to continue this on your own, and I'll keep track of the time and check in periodically. If you notice that your mind has wandered, that's completely normal. When you realize it, gently return it to the breath and begin again at 1. No judgment, only kindness, and returning to the breath. Thoughts may come and go. It's natural. Sounds may arise, sensations may shift. Each time you notice that your attention has drifted, simply escort it back to the breath. And if you're counting, starting again at 1. Now, if it feels natural, let your attention soften slightly. You may still count the breath, or you may simply feel it. Perhaps you notice the brief pauses between the exhale and the inhale. Or you might notice where you feel the breath most distinctly in your body today. Your breath may deepen or soften. It may go more quickly or it may slow down. You may even notice a pause where you're holding your breath. There's nothing special that needs to happen. Just observe what's already here. We'll continue to rest in this awareness for the next minute, and I'll keep track of the time. As we come toward the end of the meditation, gently release the counting if you haven't already. Feel your body as a whole, your posture, your breath, your state of being. Now ring the bell to signify the end of the meditation. And when you hear the bell, I invite you to remain with your eyes closed for a few moments. This is called the integration period. So during this time, you might like to take a few moments to notice how you feel now and to move back into activity in your own time. You might notice subtle shifts in your mind or your body. You can start to allow your breath to deepen a little and maybe wiggle your fingers and toes, gently stretching into the space around you. You can slowly, when it feels right, open your eyes and take as much time as you need before returning into activity. And so whenever you feel ready, you can also rejoin with your screen if you would like. That brings our first day to, or our first meeting to a conclusion. I am available to stay for a few minutes and answer questions or just talk about anything that bubbled up if you would like. But if you need to go, I also know that we went over by a few minutes, so I want to respect your time. And it was wonderful to see all of you. I'm excited to see you inside of the challenge. And just remember, the design of this challenge is for you to pick the days that work for you, the times of days that work for you. That's why it's set up the way it is. And so, um, you know, happy meditating. We'll have another live call in a couple weeks in the middle to kind of check in. And I would love to engage with you in the feed as well. And if anybody would like to share anything, then you're welcome to stay and do so. And if not, then have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. It's really nice. I felt my shoulders go down.
Oh, great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I learned I learned that my dog Ruby does not, she's very concerned about the situation.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't authorize this.
I moved to a different spot. She had been laying next to me on the couch. And I moved to a different spot because it was, a better spot for meditation. And about a few minutes in, she was watching me, I think. And a few minutes in, she jumped down and stood right in front of me and was whining at me, going,
Yeah,
and then I said, it's okay, just go lay down.
yeah.
So
Go meditate.
she walked over to the window and then she came back and stared at me again. She's like, why are you doing that?
Dogs know, they know
They do.
that there's something like really,
Different.
yeah, different.
She does. She's so hyper aware of of her
Yes.
surroundings.
Yeah.
She's like, what are you doing? You don't
Yeah.
usually do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Mom's not engaging
so
with me at all.
That's so
Just
Uh-huh.
great.
checking out.
Yep. So, future, I have to plan for when a time when, although she'll probably get used to it, but
Yeah. Yeah,
She
she will.
will. She will. And she'll probably settle in and lay with you. A lot of times I notice animals like to lay on your lap. Um, but that's one of the reasons why I often say, noises or sounds don't need to be a barrier to meditation because we've got all kinds of things fighting for our attention, right? Um, Including our own thoughts. And so it's, just welcome it all.
well, she went back to her spot,
Okay,
and
good.
laid down, but she was highly concerned why my eyes were closed and I was sitting here,
She's your
Yeah.
support dog.
not
She,
moving. She was
yeah,
like, what is she doing?
I
And is
call
she
you.
okay?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Well,
That's so
thank
cute.
you so much, Katie. I'm gonna hop off, but
All
Happy New
right.
Year to you both.
Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New
To
Year.
you. Yeah.
Nice to
I'm
meet you,
from
Annie.
Michigan,
All right. Have a good
Chicago.
rest of your trip.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.